Blood dripped from Jacob's torn shirt as he pressed against the kennel fence, while 2 inches from his face, a snarling pit bull tried to bite through the chain link. "Listen, buddy," whispered the 17-year-old, not breaking eye contact with the dog's yellow eyes. "We're both here against our will." This was his first day of community service at the Second Chance shelter in Miami. 180 hours of punishment for getting caught with spray paint near an underpass. The judge said caring for homeless animals would teach him responsibility. Jacob had his doubts. "Stay away from Tank," warned Maria, the shelter manager, approaching with an armload of leashes. "He's been here 6 months. No family wants an aggressive dog." Tank. The name fit the massive gray and white pit bull whose shoulders tensed under his skin with every movement. Scars on his muzzle told a story Jacob understood without words. He carried invisible scars too. "Why is he so angry?" asked the teenager, watching Tank stop growling but not backing away. Maria sighed, flipping her gray braid over her shoulder. Police found him chained in the backyard of an abandoned house in the Overland district. The owners disappeared. When the vet examined him, they found old rib fractures, scars from chains. Someone taught him not to trust humans. Jacob nodded. He understood that feeling better than he wanted to. The rest of the day he cleaned kennels, fed other dogs and cats, but constantly caught himself glancing at Tank. The dog no longer growled, just lay in the corner of his kennel, watching everything around him. His posture was tense, ready to attack or flee. "You're new." A girl about 16 with red hair and a ponytail approached Jacob. Her green volunteer shirt read Emma. "Community service," he replied curtly, not wanting to elaborate. Emma nodded as if she understood. "I work here after school. Parents think it looks good on college applications." She glanced at Tank. "You've been watching him all day." "He reminds me of someone." "Who?" Jacob didn't answer. Instead he asked, "What's going to happen to him?" Emma's face darkened. "Next week he'll be. If nobody takes him, they'll have to put him down." Maria tries to delay it, but space is limited, and new animals arrive daily. Something cold ran down Jacob's spine. He looked at Tank again and saw the dog staring directly at him. Not aggressively, just understandingly. When the workday ended, Jacob lingered by Tank's kennel. The shelter was quieting down, the last volunteers leaving. He pulled out half a sandwich from his pocket that he hadn't finished at lunch. "Hungry?" he asked quietly. Tank lifted his head, nostrils flaring. Jacob carefully pushed his hand through the feeding slot. The dog didn't rush. Slowly approached, sniffed, then carefully took the food from his palm without touching the skin with his teeth. "Good boy," Jacob whispered. That's when he heard voices from Maria's office. The door was ajar, and a man's voice sounded insistent. "I need strong dogs. Ones that can fight. I'll pay cash. No questions asked." Jacob froze. Maria replied something indistinct, but her voice sounded tense. The boy carefully crept closer, heart pounding. "Especially that pit bull in the far kennel," the stranger continued. "I saw him today. Exactly what I need." Jacob felt his blood run cold. Tank quietly whimpered, as if sensing danger. Jacob's hands trembled as he crouched behind the supply closet, straining to hear every word from Maria's office. The stranger's voice was rough, confident, the voice of someone used to getting what he wanted. "The pit bull's perfect," the man continued. "Size, aggression, scars show he's been through hell already. Those are the fighters that make real money." "I don't know what you're talking about." Maria's voice was steady, but Jacob caught the slight tremor. "This is a legitimate animal shelter." A harsh laugh echoed through the hallway. "Come on, lady. Everyone knows you're drowning in bills. The city's threatening to shut you down. I'm offering a way out." Jacob felt sick. He'd heard rumors about underground dogfighting rings in Miami, but seeing Tank, knowing someone wanted to drag him back into that nightmare, made it real. The dog had escaped one hell only to face another. "Get out," Maria said firmly. I won't sell animals to people like you. Heavy footsteps moved toward the door. Jacob pressed himself deeper into the shadows as a tall man in an expensive leather jacket emerged. Gold teeth glinted when he smiled, and tattoos covered his thick forearms. He paused, scanning the empty hallway like a predator. Think about my offer, Maria. I'll be back tomorrow night, and I always get what I come for. The front door slammed shut. Jacob waited until he heard Maria's office door close before creeping back to Tank's kennel. The dog was standing now, alight, ears forward. Somehow he'd sensed the danger too. "Hey boy," Jacob whispered, approaching slowly. This time Tank didn't back away. Instead, he moved closer to the fence, pressing his nose against the chain link where Jacob's fingers rested. For the first time, Jacob saw something other than fear in those yellow eyes. Recognition. Trust. Two damaged souls finding each other in the darkness. Jacob made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't going to let Tank become a victim again. The next morning, Jacob arrived at the shelter an hour early. He found Emma already there, filling water bowls with mechanical precision. Her usual cheerful demeanor was gone. "You heard about Tank, didn't you?" she said without looking up. Jacob stopped pretending. "The guy last night. You know about the dog fighting?" Emma's hand stilled on the water hose. She glanced around, then motioned for him to follow her to the storage room. Inside, surrounded by bags of kibble and cleaning supplies, she turned to face him. "It's been going on for months," she whispered. "Men coming by, looking at specific dogs. Always the strong ones, the aggressive ones. Maria tries to refuse, but..." She pulled out her phone, showing him a newspaper clipping. "Look at this." The headline read, "Local animal shelter faces closure due to funding crisis." The article detailed second chances mounting debts, the city council's threats to shut them down unless they found a major donor. "She's desperate," Emma continued. "And these people know it. They offer huge money, sometimes 10 times what a normal adoption fee would be." "Has she ever said yes?" Jacob asked, though he dreaded the answer. Emma's silence was answer enough. Jacob felt anger burning in his chest. Not the wild, destructive rage that usually got him in trouble, but something focused, protective. "We can't let them take Tank. What can we do? We're just kids doing community service and volunteer work." "Maybe," Jacob said slowly, "but kids see things adults miss, and sometimes that's exactly what you need." He told Emma about his plan. It was risky, probably illegal, and definitely stupid. But as they talked, Tank appeared at his kennel door, watching them with those intelligent eyes. The dog seemed to understand that his fate hung in the balance. Emma stared at Jacob for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but if we're doing this, we need proof. Real evidence that will shut these people down permanently." As if responding to their resolve, Tank let out a low, rumbling sound. Not a growl this time, but something that sounded almost like approval. The war for Tank's freedom was about to begin. That evening, Jacob hid behind the dumpster outside Second Chance, his phone recording everything. Emma was positioned near the back entrance with a borrowed security camera she'd found in the storage room. The plan was simple: get evidence of the illegal dogfighting operation, then take it to the police. At exactly 9 p.m., the same leather-jacketed man from yesterday pulled up in a black SUV. 2 other men got out. One massive guy with prison tattoos covering his neck, another thin man with nervous eyes who kept checking his watch. Jacob's heart hammered as he zoomed in with his phone camera. "You changed your mind?" Leather Jacket asked Maria as she reluctantly opened the shelter door. "I need the money." Maria's voice was barely audible. "But I want guarantees these dogs go to good homes." The thin man laughed. "Lady, they're going to the best home possible. Winning dogs live like kings. Losing dogs..." He shrugged. Jacob felt sick. Through the window, he could see Tank pacing in his kennel, agitated. The dog seemed to sense the evil approaching. Show us the merchandise, Leather Jacket demanded. As they moved deeper into the shelter, Jacob crept closer to the window. Emma's camera caught everything as Maria reluctantly led them past kennels full of scared, confused animals. Some dogs cowered, others barked frantically. But Tank stood still, staring directly at the men with pure hatred in his yellow eyes. That one, the massive man pointed at Tank. He's got the look, the hunger. His papers say he's aggressive, Maria said weakly. Maybe he's not suitable for adoption. Perfect for our purposes, Leather Jacket smiled coldly. We'll take him tonight. Cash payment, like promised. Jacob watched in horror as the thin man pulled out a thick envelope. This was really happening. In minutes, Tank would be loaded into that SUV and disappear forever into a world of violence and death. That's when Tank did something unexpected. The dog looked directly at Jacob through the window and let out a single, sharp bark. Not aggressive, more like a signal. Jacob understood. Tank was ready to fight, but not in the way these men expected. Emma's voice crackled through Jacob's earpiece. Police are 15 minutes out. Can you stall them? Jacob's mind raced. 15 minutes was too long. They were already putting a leash on Tank, and the dog was fighting every step. But something in Tank's eyes stopped Jacob cold. The dog wasn't just resisting. He was waiting for the right moment. Without thinking, Jacob burst through the front door. Stop, he shouted, startling everyone. You can't take him. The massive man spun around, hand moving to his jacket. Who the hell is this kid? Nobody, Maria said quickly, fear evident in her voice. Jacob, get out of here. Now. I know what you're doing, Jacob said, backing toward Tank's kennel. This isn't adoption. You're taking him to fight. To die. Leather Jacket's eyes narrowed. Smart kid. Too smart. He nodded to his partner. Handle this. But as the massive man stepped forward, Tank broke free from the thin man's grip. The leash snapped as 60 pounds of furious pit bull launched himself between Jacob and his attacker. Tank didn't bite. Instead, he planted himself like a wall, hackles raised, a low growl rumbling from his chest. Call him off. Leather Jacket yelled. I can't, Jacob said truthfully. He makes his own choices. And Tank had chosen to protect the only person who'd shown him kindness. The standoff lasted forever and no time at all. Tank held his ground, muscles coiled like springs. The men reached for weapons. Emma burst through the back door, camera rolling. Maria stood frozen between her desperate need for money and her conscience. Then sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Time to go, Leather Jacket snarled. They backed toward the exit, but not before he pointed at Jacob. This isn't over, kid. We know where you live. As their SUV squealed away, Jacob dropped to his knees beside Tank. The dog was trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline. For the first time since Jacob had met him, Tank allowed himself to be touched, leaning his massive head against the boy's chest. Good boy, Jacob whispered, wrapping his arms around the scarred warrior. We did it. But even as police cars surrounded the building, Jacob knew the real fight was just beginning. They had evidence, but men like Leather Jacket didn't give up easily. And now they'd made it personal. Tank looked up at him with those knowing yellow eyes, and Jacob saw something new there, loyalty. This damaged dog had chosen him, and he'd chosen Tank right back. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Detective Ray Martinez flipped through the photos on Emma's camera, his weathered face grim. The Miami PD veteran had seen plenty of animal cruelty cases, but this level of organization was something else entirely. You kids did good work, he said, looking at Jacob and Emma in the shelter's office. But these aren't small-time criminals. We've been tracking this fighting ring for 2 years. They move locations, use fake names, disappear when we get close. Jacob sat with Tank pressed against his legs. Since the confrontation 3 days ago, the dog refused to leave his side. Maria had bent the rules, allowing Jacob to take Tank home while the legal paperwork sorted itself out. His mom had been surprisingly okay with it, maybe sensing that both boy and dog needed each other. "The man you called Leather Jacket, that's Vincent Cruz," Martinez continued. "He runs fights all over South Florida. Big money, dangerous people. The footage you got will help us build a case. But, Emma prompted, "Cruz doesn't like loose ends. And you two just made yourselves very loose ends." As if summoned by the detective's words, Jacob's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Text message. Cute dog. Hope nothing happens to him." Tank's head snapped up, sensing Jacob's tension. The dog's lips pulled back slightly, revealing white teeth. "Show me," Martinez demanded. After reading the message, he kissed it under his breath. "Pack a bag, son. You and your family need protection until we can bring Cruz in." "No," Jacob said firmly. "Running won't stop him. And Tank's not going into witness protection." "Kid, this isn't a game." "You're right. It's not." Jacob stood, his hand resting on Tank's head. "These people hurt dogs because they think no one will fight back. Well, someone's fighting back now." Through the window, Jacob spotted a familiar black SUV parked across the street. The same one from that night. Cruz was watching, waiting for his moment. Tank saw it too. His body tensed, every muscle coiled. But instead of fear, Jacob felt something else, determination. They'd started this fight. Now they were going to finish it. That night, Jacob couldn't sleep. Tank lay by the bedroom window, alert, watching the street. Every few minutes, a car would drive by slowly, headlights sweeping across the walls. The third time it happened, Tank's low growl confirmed Jacob's suspicions. At 2 a.m., the power went out. "Mom," Jacob called, but her bedroom door was already opening. Sarah Chen, a nurse who'd raised Jacob alone since his father left, appeared with a baseball bat and her phone already dialing 911. "Line's dead," she whispered. "Back door. Now." But as they crept through the house, Tank suddenly bolted toward the front door, barking frantically. Through the window, Jacob saw flames licking at the porch. Cruz's men had set fire to the wooden steps, blocking their exit. "The garage," his mom said, but Tank planted himself in the hallway, refusing to move toward the back of the house. His bark changed pitch, urgent, warning. Jacob trusted the dog's instincts. There's someone back there too. They were trapped. Smoke was beginning to seep under the front door when Tank did something remarkable. The dog ran to Jacob's backpack, grabbed the strap in his teeth, and dragged it toward the window. Inside was the emergency flare Jacob kept for camping trips. "You're brilliant," Jacob breathed, understanding immediately. He cracked the flare, its red light blazing through the smoke. Tank barked once more, then crashed through the window screen, creating an escape route. As Jacob helped his mother climb through, he heard sirens approaching. Someone had seen the flare and called the fire department. Cruz's men scattered as emergency vehicles flooded the street. But Jacob knew this wasn't over until Cruz was behind bars. The next morning brought unexpected news. Detective Martinez arrived with Emma, both grinning. "We got him," Martinez announced. "Your little light show last night. One of the firefighters recognized Cruz from our wanted posters. Caught him 3 blocks away with gasoline on his clothes." But the best news came from Emma. "The story went viral," she said, showing them her phone. The video of Tank protecting Jacob had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. Donations are pouring in for second chance. Maria won't have to sell any more dogs. Jacob looked down at Tank, who was calmly chewing a new toy, a gift from the fire department. The scars were still there. The wariness in his eyes hadn't completely faded, but something fundamental had changed. Tank had found his purpose, not fighting other dogs, but fighting for the people he loved. "So what happens now?" Jacob asked. Martinez smiled. "Now you finish your community service. Both of you. Turns out the city's creating a new program, Therapy Dogs for At-Risk Youth. They need a good team to help get it started. Jacob scratched Tank's ears, feeling the dog's contented rumble. What do you think, boy? Ready for a new job? Tank's tail wagged once, slowly. It was the first time Jacob had seen him truly happy. Sometimes the most damaged souls make the strongest heroes. And sometimes, fighting back means choosing to protect instead of destroy. 6 months later, Jacob stood outside the Miami Youth Center with Tank by his side, both wearing matching blue vests labeled Therapy Team. The October morning was crisp, a welcome break from Florida's crushing summer heat. Through the glass doors, he could see a group of teenagers slouched in metal chairs, arms crossed, faces closed off. They looked thrilled to be here, Emma observed, adjusting her volunteer coordinator badge. She'd graduated early and was now helping run the pilot program. Jacob recognized the expressions, the same defensive anger he'd worn like armor not so long ago. Yeah, well, I probably looked the same way 8 months ago. Tank's transformation had been remarkable. The once vicious fighting dog now carried himself with quiet confidence, his head high but alert. The scars remained, but they'd become part of his story rather than his identity. Dr. Sarah Kim, the program's therapist, had explained how animals could reach kids that humans couldn't. No judgment, no agenda, just acceptance. Remember, Dr. Kim said as they prepared to enter, don't force interactions. Let Tank do what he does naturally. These kids have been through trauma, abandonment, violence. Some might see him as a threat initially. Jacob nodded, his hand resting on Tank's head. The dog's calm energy flowed through him like a meditation. Ready, partner. The first session was brutal. 15 kids, ages 13 to 17, all court-ordered into therapy. They'd been labeled gang affiliates, runaways, drug dealers, fighters. Jacob saw himself in every hostile stare. This is stupid, muttered a girl with purple hair and fresh bruises on her knuckles. What's a dog gonna do that a shrink can't? Maybe nothing, Jacob replied honestly. But Tank's not here to fix anyone. He's just here to be present. Tank walked calmly to the center of the circle and lay down, positioning himself where everyone could see him. Several kids leaned forward unconsciously. One boy, maybe 14 with track marks on his arms, stared intently at Tank's scars. What happened to him? The boy asked quietly. Jacob told Tank's story. The fighting ring, the abuse, the night they met. He didn't sugarcoat it or make it inspirational. Just facts. Raw truth. So he was a fighter? Asked a tough-looking girl with gang tattoos. Yay, but he chose to be something else. For the first time, the room was completely silent except for Tank's steady breathing. 1 year later, Jacob sat in the courtyard of Miami-Dade Community College, Tank stretched out beside him in the shade. His acceptance letter to the veterinary technology program lay open on his lap. The kid who'd been headed for juvenile detention was now planning a career helping animals. Remember Marcus? Emma asked, joining them with coffee. She was studying social work now, inspired by the therapy program's success. Jacob smiled. Marcus was the boy with track marks who'd been terrified of Tank at first. Now he volunteered at Second Chance every weekend, his own rescue dog, a one-eyed pit bull named Hope, by his side. The therapy program had expanded to 5 centers across Florida, with Tank and Jacob as the poster team. Maria approached, carrying a manila folder thick with adoption papers. Second Chance was thriving, with a waiting list of families wanting to adopt difficult dogs. The viral video had done more than raise money. It had changed minds about pit bulls and the kids who loved them. Vincent Cruz got 15 years, she announced, settling onto the bench beside them. Judge said the video evidence was overwhelming. The fighting ring is finished. Jacob scratched Tank's ears, feeling the dog's contented rumble. They'd both come so far from that first day when Tank had tried to bite through the kennel fence. The dog who'd learned to fight had learned something better: how to heal. A small commotion near the building caught their attention. A group of teenagers from the current therapy program was walking toward them, led by Dr. Kim. At the center of the group, a nervous-looking boy of about 15 hung back, obviously reluctant. "Tyler's been asking to meet you," Dr. Kim explained. "He's been in the program for 3 months, but he won't engage with the therapy dogs. Says they're too soft." Tyler stepped forward, chin raised defensively. Jacob recognized the posture, the challenge in his eyes. Another fighter looking for a fight. Tank rose slowly, calmly, and walked directly to Tyler. The boy's hands clenched into fists, but Tank simply sat in front of him and waited. No aggression, no submission, just patient presence. "He won't hurt you," Jacob said quietly. "But he won't take crap from you either. He's been where you are." Tyler's tough facade cracked slightly. "Where's that?" "Angry, scared, convinced that fighting is the only way to survive." Tyler stared at Tank for a long moment, then slowly unclenched his fists. When Tank moved closer, the boy didn't pull away. "Does it get easier?" Tyler asked, his voice barely audible. Jacob thought about the journey, the fear, the trust, the choice to become something better than what the world expected. "Not easier," he said honestly, "but worth it." As the afternoon sun slanted through the palm trees, Tyler sat down beside Tank, his hand hovering inches from the dog's scarred head. Tank waited patiently, letting the boy make the choice. Finally, Tyler's hand made contact. Tank leaned into the touch, eyes closing peacefully. Jacob smiled. Another fighter choosing a different path. The ripples spread outward, one damaged soul healing another, creating something beautiful from something broken. Tank opened one eye and looked at Jacob, tail thumping softly against the concrete. In that look was everything: gratitude, partnership, and the unshakable bond between two survivors who'd learned that the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting against the world, it's fighting for it.